Okay, I'll tell the story of my shared death experience, which was the breadcrumb.
Welcome to the Breadcrumb Effect podcast, where we interview interesting people with a story to tell
and share what breadcrumbs they've picked up along the way. I'm Danny.
And I'm Brittany.
Welcome to the Breadcrumb Effect.
Welcome to the Breadcrumb Effect.
Today we're joined by Taylor from Kindred Company. She is a creator, seeker, and guide who believes there is more to this life than what we can see. After walking through deep personal grief and transformative life experiences, she began to question everything she once thought she knew, opening the door to a new way of seeing, healing, and understanding. Today, she channels those hard-earned lessons into her holistic wellness practice, where she supports others through grief, spiritual exploration, and end-of-life care. What once felt like darkness became a turning point, leading her to help others find meaning, connection, and even breadcrumbs from loved ones who have passed. In this episode, we dive into the ways grief can shape us, the unseen connections that continue beyond loss, and how pain can ultimately lead us to a deeper sense of purpose and healing. Let's dive into it.
Taylor, thank you so much for joining. I've been really excited about this conversation for a long time because did we just randomly connect on TikTok? Is that how this happened?
We did, yeah. I was scrolling and I couldn't even tell you what video came up, but the name of your podcast stuck out to me because I'm all about signs and synchronicities. I am obsessed. So yeah, and then we connected that way, and then I had a video that I tagged you in because I used the word breadcrumb in one of my videos that I had recorded before we had even connected.
I mean, which is a breadcrumb? It's crazy.
Right. Yeah, yes, exactly.
And it's so funny because when we started this, I didn't have the word synchronicity in my vocabulary. And that's been sort of the fun thing in this project is, for one, the consistent themes that are popping up from episode to episode with all the different guests that we have on from all different backgrounds. So we are so connected at such like a basic human level. And then this word synchronicity is popping up. So maybe for those listeners that are listening that aren't familiar with that term, do you want to share kind of your understanding of what that means?
Yes, and it's synchronicity. Also, I don't want to like embarrass you by saying that, but it's synchronicity.
You're like, the word is still not in your vocabulary, actually.
It's so close though.
Wait, let me say it again.
Synchronicity. Like you're synchronizing. Your lives are synchronizing together. It's synchronicitous.
I like that word,
Synchronicity, yes. So a synchronicity, it's used a lot in psychology. So it's not Freud, it's the other big psychologist that I'm totally blanking. But he used that word to term things that just happen that you can't explain. It's more than a coincidence. There's got to be more than just this happening to you.
I was wondering if if it was Carl Jung that said that.
Yes, that's it. Yes. It's very big in the spiritual community too, which I very much consider myself part of. And I didn't have the term for it up until recently either because I had a very different upbringing than what I believe now. And not to make this like a religious conversation at all, but I have grown into my own faith and understanding to where maybe I wasn't so much allowed to have that breadth of information, I guess you could say, from a young age. So a couple of years ago, I could have what you might call a spiritual awakening, where I was having these very strange synchronicities or signs happen to me. And I'd always joked that I'm psychic. I can tell what's going to happen. And like, I just know things that I shouldn't know. And I disregarded it. Going back to that upbringing, I disregarded it. I didn't give myself space to trust it. So it got to a point where it was in my face and I had no choice but to trust it. And that's kind of just what led on my journey towards my beliefs now and ultimately led to just more of my own understanding of myself. And now I feel like I live more authentically than I ever have.
We can definitely go into that spiritual realm, and do share whatever you're comfortable sharing, because I think this is also what has connected us, Taylor, and brought us kind of closer together, and why I was also excited for this conversation, because there are things also in my life that I haven't shared on the podcast that I feel like I am now ready to share. And I don't want to speak for my daughter, because these things extend on into my daughter. And I'm also curious to hear maybe from your own children if it's extended further too. But so, and tell me if I'm projecting, but like, so myself grew up in a very Christian Catholic family. Anything that is sort of woo woo is like, no, like shame.
Yes.
Except, other hand, on my mom's side, we have, yeah, like 6 generations on the maternal line of like weird things, interesting, unexplainable, I don't know. And then my daughter, right? Same as myself, we have dreams and then they come true, or I have what's like things that we sense. I've used to call it like a knowing, but instead of being clairvoyant, I think I think you use the word clairaudible, and I think for me it was clairsentient. So maybe before we get too far down the line into these crazy terms I threw out there, do you want to share a little bit more about sort of your background and your understanding of sort of this other sort of unexplainable realm?
Yeah, so I had a very similar upbringing. I wouldn't say that I grew up in church though. I was like an Easter family that I went, on that Sunday. That was it. But we still always kind of had that as our religion, but I didn't understand any of it. I was just that's just going along with what I had been told. And then actually a couple like I don't know, 4 years ago my dad got diagnosed with cancer, and I was very angry, and I decided I don't believe in anything because why would a God do that to me? So I was actually I had a lot of anger and hatred, even toward hatred's probably not the right word. I just had a lot of anger and resentment towards anybody that had a religious belief, because I felt personally victimized that a God would do this to my dad and to my family. And I kind of left it at that too, and had a chip on my shoulder. But then as those other things started happening to me, I was like, okay, this can't be there can't be nothing though. I don't know what it is. And I got to the point where I was just comfortable not, I didn't care to understand it. I was just following it. And I took that pressure off of myself to have the answers. And when I did that, I feel like things just started happening more to me because I wasn't putting that pressure on myself. I do believe that it's all the same. Like every religion or belief has the same like core values. Yes, there are vast differences, but when you get to the core of what those teachings are, they're the same. So I still don't have the answers to what it is, and I'm not trying to either. But there are terms when you get in. I don't even have a name for the community that I fall under either. I'm doing my own thing. I have my own understanding of my beliefs, and but some of those terms like clairaudient, that's hearing. So that would be an example of that would be hearing a song pop into your head. I used to just think I have a random song in my head, but now I pay attention and I'm noticing what are the lyrics of those songs. And does that apply to anything I was just thinking about or any themes in my life right now that I'm trying to figure out? So that's one example. There are like 5 or 6 clairs. So clairsentient, that's what you had just mentioned. So there are different kinds, and I believe everybody has access to that. It's just like a skill, like anything else. You have to develop it and learn it for yourself. And the more that you start to recognize these things or be aware of these things that are happening to you, the more that you're going to see them coming across as signs or synchronicities or breadcrumbs or whatever the term that you use for it.
Wow. Taylor, what I'd love to hear, well, I want to hear something else, but what I love about what you just said is you surrendered, basically. You let
Yeah.
go of control You said, I don't need all the answers because we're never going to know the truth until we're not here. Honestly,
Right.
like we won't know. And to me, I don't think there's like a right and a wrong, right? Like I have my belief, someone can have their belief. And I think as long as we are coming together and we can respect each other's beliefs and we don't have to agree on it, but I respect what people say. And I'm like, oh well, it kind of makes sense. Like I don't maybe that's not what I'm thinking, but I'm like, well, it does make sense. So I think the letting go and the not holding on so tight to control, I think that's where we get in a bind, and that's what really causes, um, distension among like, within ourselves and with others. We always have to be right about everything. For what? We don't fucking know what's gonna be right or wrong, right? So, anyways,
Yeah,
what I
I agree. That was not an easy thing either. Like, it wasn't just a, "Oh, I've decided I am just gonna take it as it is." It was not like that. It was a battle within my own mental health and the situations that were happening to me where it was really a rock bottom of, "Okay, you can keep fighting for this control and you can keep feeling the panic attacks and the stresses that are on you, or you can make a choice to let go." And that choice was something it was almost like you had no choice but to not have a choice.
and sometimes we get to that point, you mentioned we're at rock bottom. We we hold on to control until we realize that we're not in control.
Yeah.
I think that
And
really is
yeah,
until
and I think it
realize
all goes back to the self, like your ego, your mind, and the what I believe is you have your true self, your higher power, what your beliefs are, like, are your own, but for me, that's what I believe. And your ego is your human self. So it's almost like these parts of you that come together to give you this human experience. And that I fight with that a lot because there are there are these beliefs that you have or these things that you think you should always be. You should always be kind, you should always be this, you should always be this or that. But you are a human having a human experience. So you can't fight those feelings or you can't judge those feelings that you have. So when you have those sense of control, instead of judging it immediately and being like, I can't do this. I'm not supposed to be in control mode. It's more of a awareness and a forgiveness and in allowing that, okay, I recognize now that I'm having these feelings of a need for control. Where is that coming from? And getting curious as to why those triggers are coming up for you. And that process has been huge in how I have healed my own mental health struggles and how I feel so confident in where I am and who I am as a person.
do you meditate?
I don't. I try, but I have ADHD, so it's very hard for me to do. So I almost meditate in my own way. So there are times where I will sit in a room and like listen to a guided meditation, but I find it easier for myself if I go and like take a walk or if I write. Journaling has been a huge one for me too. It's like you almost need, for me with ADHD, it's like I need something to do with my hands. I have literally talking to you, I have to have a crystal in my hand because like a fidget. So where I can't focus unless something's in my hand. So writing and journaling, especially guided journaling with prompts, I have gotten to the bottom of a ton of things in my own healing.
Well, the reason why I asked about that is, when you were talking about we're all going through this human experience. We all have these different emotions, whether it comes from the ego, it's jealousy, it's envy, it's sadness, it's anger, whatever these emotions are. Recognizing them, getting curious, and then letting it go. That's what meditation is. It's identifying what the thought and then letting the thought go. But also I like the getting curious about it part too, because I think that, yeah, sometimes it's like, why are we feeling this anger? Or why are we jealous of that person?
Yeah.
Oh, because we want what that other person has. So it's not really jealousy, it's just like, oh, I need to go and explore this same avenue as the other person. Anyways, that was my
Yeah, it's
thought.
almost like new level of awareness with everything you find out about yourself. It's just like leveling up time after time, and it just allows you to reach a deeper understanding of yourself and also others. I can't even watch reality TV now without being like, "Oh, I bet they had this issue. I bet they have some past traumas in their childhood." I can't do it. I like literally am examining every interaction I ever have.
If you're just busy in your life and you're stressed out and you are, filling your schedule to the max and you're not creating this space to, like y'all said, like assess, contemplate, give yourself this time to move your hands and write in a journal and see where it goes. Like, if you're just busy, 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 you're not opening your mind to these other channels, whether it be words from God or these other signs that we're looking for, or noticing the breadcrumbs and then us thinking, what did this mean? How can I apply this? And how can I change my life based on listening to this intuition and our gut? So I do believe, I think it all ties together, and I'm also a big fan of meditation. So do you, off the top of your head, can you think of any of your favorite journal prompts that have helped you recently that might help some listeners?
Yes. So my favorite, I listen to Gabby Bernstein's podcast all the time. And if you're not familiar with her, she is like a spiritual wellness coach, public speaker. She's amazing. And she actually just got certified to be an internal family systems therapy. I don't think she's a therapist, but she's certified in it. And the way that she breaks down every problem, I use it all the time. So when you are triggered, when you start to feel yourself have those heightened emotions, taking a moment and then going and talking to that part of you. So it's like the parts of you are inside of your body, but like the jealousy. So you go and talk to that jealousy and you write to it like you're talking to it. You take yourself outside of your body and speak to this part of you as another being in a way. So it's very strange to think about, but when you get into it, it is it's really life-changing.
As you were talking, I was like, this sounds like ISS.
It is, yes, that is exactly yes, 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 yes.
Oh,
I love that. Yes, that's
okay.
so, do you have a therapy background?
I go to therapy because I've needed it extensively.
Okay. I wasn't
I
sure,
love
I just never, like, it's so in, like, the wild, like, in my day-to-day, I don't have people to talk about this kind of stuff with, like, it's online that I'm finding people to talk
Yeah.
with, so if I were to go and, like, ask my cousin, "Do you know what IFS is?" No, they would not, which is fine, but I'm, like, so shocked. You literally have to be on it.
So we did go through IFS last year, and it, for those listening, and Brittany, like it honestly for me was life changing because it does separate all of your parts. We are all, and I don't mean to take over, but it's like we there in every one of us, there's more versions of just one of us, right? Like sometimes we like running, sometimes we like to veg out. Sometimes we feel really, really angry, and sometimes we feel kindness. Like we are all so many more than just one version of ourselves. And it's also trying to understand. So if I'm angry and this is like it's a firefighter in me trying to actually be there to help me. And then you kind of get curious, like, what is it trying to help me? Like, is it even helping? And anyway, it's amazing. So Taylor, sorry, continue.
No, you probably explained it better than I could have. And you can be more than one thing at one time. So you can have 2 or 3 or 4 parts having an internal struggle within yourself, and your mind cannot make sense of what's happening, and that's where the stress feelings come from, because you can't in that real time, you can't decipher all of these emotions coming out at once. So that's where the writing comes in. You pause, you pick one that's the most prevalent, and then you start to talk to it. Ask why it's popping up. What are you trying to protect me from? Where did you come from? How long have you been around? All of those things. And yeah, I do get into a meditative state when I'm writing because something takes over in me. That part takes over in me, I guess you could say. And the words just flow and there's so much insight that's revealed. And after that, it's just a weight. It's relief, really, is what it is. And then there's the understanding. So the next time it comes up, you have that awareness and you're able to get back to your not natural state, that's not the right word I'm looking for, but your calm state, your neutral state maybe is the better word. Because I do think the nervous system, like being in stress mode, in survival mode, that doesn't give you the space to have your intuition because you're so overwhelmed in just surviving that there's no room for it.
Is this what you're going to school for, Taylor?
I'm actually getting certified to be a grief educator is the term that the program's using, but I'm going to be a peer support counselor and I'm also going to be a death doula.
Interesting.
Death
Yeah.
doula.
So have you heard of a birth doula?
Uh-huh.
It's the same thing, but instead of bringing life in, you are assisting the person through the end of life and their families through the end of life.
Can you share like more about like are they a death doula is when someone is like at the end of life, so when they're maybe in hospice, or is this after they've already passed, or all of it?
No, yes, during. The thing is, like, this is a whole breadcrumb in itself. Like, I feel like this has been what I've supposed to be doing, and I just have had like this aha moment that it's come to me. So, my dad died last January. Immediately after, I felt called to help other people. It's almost one of those, like, I don't know what to do with myself, so let me go see what I can go mother somebody else and help them kind of thing because my really good friend had one of their really good friends die and this was weeks after my dad died and I went into I need to help you. And I was really leaning on my spirituality to get me through it because I was getting so many signs from my dad after he had passed and crazy things that I cannot explain. So it was like my dad's passing was the event that opened up some of the more mystical things that happened in my life. So in this January now, after I had been wanting to help people, I decided that I'm going to get certified and actually do it. I've had enough time to rest and heal myself. Now I'm ready to get serious and put myself out there and help people. But it still didn't feel quite right. Like something was missing. I don't want to just be the grief girl. I feel like I have more to give, especially with some of the other things that I had been through, like we mentioned before, like my spiritual awakening. It was with career. So I feel like I really have a good grasp on my identity now. And I know there are so many other people that are going through transformations in their own way that I can help them do that too. So it still was like, grief is not it. Just spiritual guidance doesn't feel right. Like there has to be something else. And I was just so interested in the afterlife. And I wanted to know what happened to my dad in that transition phase. And I had watched Hospice Nurse Julie on TikTok. She's so amazing. And she was sharing some of the things that I saw in my dad. And I was like, that makes so much sense. But there's no way I can be medical. Like no, thank you. I cannot handle any of that. I'm not a medical person. I get queasy at the sight of blood. But I had, in this grief educator course, there was a section where my teacher was talking about the person that's dying. And he said, the worst thing that you can do for a person dying is to start treating them like they have already died while they are still alive. And I have chills right now just thinking about it because that is so true. I put myself back into those final days with my dad. And I was like I'm already planning the funeral and I didn't even realize it at the time. I was just trying to make it through. And when my teacher was explaining all these things that happen, I kept putting myself back into that scenario and thinking, wow, I could have done things a lot differently. I was wrapped in so much fear and not knowing what was happening and just bewildered with the events. And that made me want to help others in that space too, because if I can come and educate and take on some of the tasks that they need done, whatever it is, if I could come and just be of assistance to you, like hospice nurses are in the medical, but for everything else, and also with their spiritual journey, if they have questions or they just want to talk, or the person dying needs grief counseling because they are grieving their entire life. The families are grieving this person, but the person dying is grieving everything they've ever known. Like the air, they're grieving never being like going outside again. Everything, their whole lives are ending, and they are going through this grief process themselves. And it's not something I thought about, which is like sad for me to even say out loud, like how they are a person. They have their own needs. Their life is coming to an end, but they still are a human that needs connection and support. And so I feel very passionate now that I want to do that, not only for the families, but for the people that are dying, because they are so worthy, just like the rest of us.
Wow. That is powerful, Taylor. We don't think about the person dying. We think of selfishly, we think about us because we're going to live without them.
Yep.
But they are
And
mourning
up.
the end. What was that?
Mm-hmm. We're scared to bring it up. We're scared to have hard conversations or uncomfortable conversations. Like, I remember being in the kitchen with my mom and my brother, and we're whispering, and my dad was not himself because he was very close to the end, but he heard us whispering and he said something out loud like, "I can still hear you." And I'm like, "You're right, that we shouldn't be doing this." Like, but you don't know how to handle these situations. And that's where I feel like somebody like me with the death doula or end of life care or whatever you want to call it, like to help have those conversations, because when you have education, when you have information on what's happening, and this even goes with like what's happening to the body. Like I really struggled with the death rattle, like all of these things. When you have information and you know what to expect or what's coming or why this is happening, some of those fears go away. You're not getting rid of the grief. That's not going away. But the fears and the unknown aspects are going away. And that leaves the room to have a meaningful presence for those final moments. So that can be the difference of a traumatic experience or a peaceful experience for those final moments. Because it was very traumatic for my family. So if I would have had that education, maybe things could have been a little bit different.
That's what I'm seeing. I'm sure everyone that's listening is immediately going back to a time of when they lost somebody that they loved and they were there for the process, and how I'm sure almost every single person wishes it would have gone differently. I wish I would have said this. I wish I could have done this more. I mean, even for myself, when my stepmom passed, I hold a lot of guilt around that because we didn't have the best relationship, and she was in the hospital. She was dying. My dad was making the rounds of phone calls for everybody to say goodbye to her. And when he called me and he goes, "Okay, here's Cindy," I froze. I had no words. And I still to this day feel so bad that all she had from me was silence. Like it just so I love that you're gonna provide this service for people.
Thank you. And I want to tell you that you should not be so hard on yourself with those final moments, and maybe give yourself permission to release those feelings of guilt, because you are a human being going through a human experience and going through something that you had not gone through before, and you did the best that you could.
Man, now I'm crying. Why do I cry every time? Thank you, Taylor. That's
You're
beautiful.
welcome.
But this shit sucks. But it's everything. Like nobody is free from this. We all experience this at some point in our life, us or somebody we love. Like nobody is free from this.
There is one truth that we know that's going to happen is we're going to die.
Yeah.
We're all going to die. No one is going to live forever. But yet, and we're all going to experience death because the people around us are going to die. But yet it is I would say the hardest thing to talk about, and also the thing that we don't ever want to talk about.
We recently interviewed a lady, and we're actually going back and forth on whether we're going to air this or not. And some of it's personal, and some of it is just the climate. She's 91 years old, and she has quite a story. So, like, if we're going to air it, we'll share the story. But what's significant is my daughter, who's 8, asked her, like, what's the hardest thing about being in your 90s? And I was like, what a great question. And she goes, everyone I've ever known now is dead. And I was just like, oh my gosh, when you get to that age, your whole family's gone and you're the only one left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To her, she was like, I'm the last.
Well,
But
yeah,
still,
when you get parents, siblings, like those anchors early in your life, yeah, it's hard because what you just said about being a universal experience, a constant in human nature, that has been something that I have been thinking about so frequently, is that this happens to everyone, but we don't have conversations about it because it's not comfortable. And what are we so afraid of in ourselves that we can't have those conversations? After my dad died, I remember having this aha moment where I just had this strong sense that I'm going to be okay no matter what happens. I just went through this terrible thing, like one of the worst things that I thought could ever happen to me, and I'm still okay. I'm still living, I'm still breathing, I'm still doing all the things that I need to do. My feelings did not get the better of me. I'm still here. And it puts life into perspective, a different perspective, I should say, because so much of my time before, I have been stuck in fear and worry and the control, all of that. But when you're faced with these huge life events, traumatic life events, it makes you pause and really think, this is the worst that I'm going through right now, and I'm still doing it. I'm still making it through. And it almost gives you like a superpower in a way to know that, yeah, I am doing it. I've had a shit hand and I'm still doing it. Like what else could go wrong? And I'm knock on wood, I'm not trying to be superstitious, but really when you break down these like worst things that could happen, those are still feelings, and like you can get through them.
one of my favorite TED Talks is talking about how this lady, she's like, I really only like hiring people that have grit because they've gone through something and they have sort of that worldly knowledge and they will work harder. She doesn't want to hire the person where everything was handed and easy and they haven't gone through anything really hard yet. And to
Yeah.
me, like, for you saying that, I'm like, that just gave you more grit to go out and in your life and apply what you're doing. And you are going to be spreading more breadcrumbs for others to pick up
Yeah.
to apply in their own way.
Yeah, one of my best friends said something that I'm going to start using this all the time, that death is the greatest teacher. It is. It is so transformative. Like when you've gone through the loss of somebody that close to you, that anchor in your life, it does completely transform you. For me, for the better. I can't speak for everybody. Like it's hard, it sucks, but on the other side of it, I'm very happy with who I am in the life that I'm leading now, because I was not on my best track beforehand. Like I was not anything, that was like on me. I was making bad choices. It wasn't that. It just was not in alignment with I feel my soul's purpose.
We're in spiritual alignment.
Yeah. Mhm.
I keep this at my desk. It's the reminder, the memento mori. I think, Brittany, didn't you see your brother has this tattoo?
Yeah, right here on his neck. I was curious because we don't talk about death, and we do have friends or family members that go through grief, or we ourselves go through it. What advice would you give to maybe someone who has a friend or family member really going through it? how can they show up for that person? Because it is uncomfortable sometimes. You don't know what to say. You don't want to make them cry, but maybe they need to cry. And so, do you have any advice as to how we can
Yeah.
talk about it more openly?
I do. The first piece of advice is that you can talk about their person to them. They want to talk about their person with anybody because once their person has died, the world starts to move on and the griever feels like life has moved on. I'm still stuck here missing my dad. I don't get asked about my dad a lot, and I just want to talk about him. I want to tell people about him. And so I think as a supporter of somebody that's grieving, just go and talk with them because you're not going to make them more sad because they're already sad. Their sadness is not going away. Their sadness is ever going to go away. We work through ways to live around the sadness, but that sadness will not ever go away. And then the second is to be comfortable with silence. A lot of times silence is very awkward and we feel like we need to fill the air with words, but sometimes just sitting there is enough. If you're uncomfortable bringing things up or you really don't want to, like, I'm not trying to have anybody's boundaries pressed by making them talk if they don't want to. Just being okay with silence is fine too.
Wow, that's really good advice. I remember my dad saying that after my stepmom passed, where he was like, he woke up the next day and he was like, the world keeps going. And to him, he was just like trying to compute, like, my world stopped, yet the world is still spinning. Thank you for not forgetting her. Or thank you for saying her
No.
name. Like, it's those little things like that. Like, just say their name. So,
Yeah.
Taylor, I love that. That's good advice.
There're not a lot of people that do that because we're so afraid of offending or bringing it up, but it's always there. That thought of their person doesn't go away. So acknowledging that is huge.
What are some of these specific signs that have come from your dad? Because I have a coworker, it's just somebody I used to work with, and that's what a coworker is. And she, her mom recently passed. She's liked the podcast, she's liked the premise, but what she's struggling with is she's like, I don't get breadcrumbs. I don't get signs. I would love for my mom to reach out, but I haven't received anything. For those that are listening, maybe hearing some of your examples, because maybe they've been there and they just haven't noticed.
Give some examples, but I do want to start with advice first is
Okay.
I do think that they are there, but the awareness just maybe isn't looking for the right thing. So what I would do for somebody that's looking for a sign that feels like they have not gotten one is to be specific on what you're looking for and just say it out loud or in your head, Mom, please send me a purple elephant, and then let it go and wait for it to come, and you will find it. You will find it. For me, my dad is, he comes in many forms, but the blue jay is the most prominent. And there is a story on how that kind of came to be. My mom had gotten one of those bird feeders that has like the video recording on it so you can see when they come up. Before my dad had actually died, we were talking about like it would be so great if like a cardinal could come and sit on the feeder after because they're like typically known to be like angels or whatever. The cardinal is very known for that. And I'm thinking, okay, no, that's not going to work for me because I have cardinals and on my like around my house all the time. That is not going to work. It needs to be something a little bit more specific, please and thank you. And this was still while he was alive too. Like I'm not saying that out loud to my dad, but like in my head that's what I'm saying. Like no, bullshit. Cardinal's not working. Pick something else, please. So things happen and now I can share that on the way to my mom and dad's house to the hospital, he was on hospice, so it started out at home and then it was just too much for us to do. So he got transported by ambulance to the hospital and I am in pure panic mode thinking he's going to die on the ride there and I'm going to miss it and just horrible feelings. And I started out driving. My brother was with me and I started to have a panic attack to where I had to stop the car because felt like I was going to pass out. So I switched spots with my brother. I'm now in the passenger seat, and flying like directly beside me are blue jays, like two blue jays. So like in perfect tandem with the car. And I'm like, did you see that? Oh my gosh. Again, not too much. That's fine. Went to the hospital. I didn't think much more of it. We came home the day after, and there was a blue jay on that feeder. After I had like said to myself, the Cardinals are not going to work, the blue jay. So now the blue jay is the symbol for my dad. And because blue jays are known of like the asshole of the birds, and my dad was kind of an asshole in the best way. I love my dad, but he was feisty and did not give a shit. And I feel like the blue jay very much fits that. So now I see blue jays everywhere all the time. And I remember in the next couple of days after he died, like my kids are getting back into the routine. And now it's my daughter's first day back to school, and she's struggling. She's almost 9, so hard for her to like go back in routine. And I said to myself, okay, Dad, and my grandpa had died of cancer like 5 years before. So that was my dad's dad. So I'm thinking, okay, Grandpa, Dad, send me a bluebird, please, because I cannot do this and I don't know how she's going to do that. As soon as I said, please send me a bluebird, here comes the school bus. Do you know what brand, like the brand of school bus are? Bluebird. Literally. So I was expecting a bird, and no, it was a bus with the word bluebird right on it. It's like surrendering to letting that spin in any form. It doesn't have to be the bluebird. It literally was a bus. And what's funny is my grandpa was a bus driver, a school bus driver. So it's like the two of them. Yeah, it was crazy.
Brittany, I told you about the Pearl story, right?
The pearl?
You or my friend Kara sent me a video about how to look for signs from a loved one that's passed on. You do. You ask for something specific from that person, a random thing in a random place. And so I was driving home one day and I was with my grandma, the same one that inspired that tattoo. And I just said, okay, Grandma, send me a pearl in a random spot. And because I think of her wearing pearls. When she passed, I did the casket flowers, and I put pearls in those, and she had stephanotis in her wedding bouquet, and so we put pearls in the middle of the stephanotis flower. I was like, pearl, pearl, pearl. Well, like not even a week later, we're in our gym working out, and I go and I sit in a camping chair, and I look in the cup holder, and there was a pearl. It's this one here, was sitting in the cup holder in the camping chair. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so my daughters were in the gym with me. And so we're like, that's crazy. I told them the story about how I asked for this. And this is from Grandma. We go in the house. We inherited an old fire truck, like toy from the 80s that plays really annoying fire truck sounds and like sirens. We walk in the house and that fire truck was going off like crazy. And we're like,
Validation.
and so my daughters were like, well, now I want to find a pearl. My oldest, who's 8, walked in the game room, and there in the middle of the room was a pearl. And then my youngest, who's 5, was sad because she didn't get a pearl. And then the next day at school, she found a pearl in the playground. So it was just like all of us found one in a matter of 24 hours.
Wow. I did not know this story.
I can't believe it. I haven't told you.
Looking out.
I mean, that's really how it works. It really can be that simple.
I kind of want to ask some stuff from Nina, Big Mama, Papa Spoiled Brat.
All of them.
I want to see what are they gonna get me? Just kidding.
Look, that's too. You can. So my dad called me Funny Frog. Like that's what he called me since I was a kid. Was a funny frog. And recently, I have been feeling like really sad and missing him. And like the Blue Jays not cutting it anymore. Okay, so Dad, I need you to send me something else because I've seen the Blue Jays. All right, next we're on to the next phase. So I'm like, okay, I really need you to send me like a funny frog. Can you send me something silly? So I was shopping and I didn't buy this, but I should go back and get it. There was like a toilet paper holder of the frog's leg, like sticking straight up. Like, how funny is that? He delivered.
He delivered. Oh, I love that. You know, I have a friend who lost her mom. It's been a little while, I think 9 years now. And she's been going to see some like mediums or astrologists, and her mom has been giving her some crazy signs lately. And I'm just like, this is so cool because you don't always hear about the cool signs. Like, I remember when my Nina passed, I had dreams where she was in it, but it was never how she was when I knew her. It was always her younger and with
Really?
a color hair. Yeah, it was never. It wasn't like when I even actually I think I might have had one a few years ago even, but I gave her a hug and I was like, "Nina," but it wasn't how she was when she passed. It was even
I
before I even knew
her best
her.
she felt best in her life.
Isn't that crazy?
Mhm.
She came to you.
Yeah. But I
Yeah.
haven't had some other people come to me and now I'm offended. I'm just kidding. God, you haven't been asking about me. Now they're offended. They're like, "Oh, what am I, chopped liver?" We have to tell you about something we've been loving lately. It fits our whole breadcrumb philosophy perfectly. It's called the Feel Good Workbook, and it was created by Dr. Kell, who you might remember from our manifesting episode. You know how she talks about following the universe's breadcrumbs? This workbook is basically that, but on paper, with actual tools you can use in real life. The idea behind it is honestly so simple, but so powerful. It teaches you how to use your human guidance system, which is basically your built-in compass for life. Think of it like the game Hot and Cold. When something feels good, you're moving in the right direction. When something feels heavy or off, that's your signal that you're getting colder and maybe taking a step away from what you actually want. What we love about this workbook is that it shows you how to read those emotional signals in real time and then shift back to feeling good fast. Not ignore your feelings, not push through. Just gently course correct so you stay aligned with where you're meant to go. Because here's the thing, the key to health, healing, and honestly creating a life you love is feeling good. And when you feel good, you're aligned, you're magnetic, you're following the breadcrumbs. And when you don't, this workbook helps you figure out why and what to do next. And the best part is our listeners get 10% off the Feel Good Workbook. Just use the code breadcrumbs10 at checkout. Feel free to go to the link in our show notes, or you can go to linktree/Dr. Kelly, that's Dr. Kelley. So if you're trying to live more intentionally, more aligned, and actually enjoy the path you're on, this is such a good place to start.
Taylor, you've had another career, right? So this is a career change for you. This is a shift. So can you share a little bit about what you did before and what those breadcrumbs were that changed the trajectory?
Yeah, so I was in corporate. I was in senior management, web design, UI, UX, UI for a pharmaceutical company. So talk about a different field now. I climbed the corporate ladder from a very young age. I shot right out of college, did all the things I thought I was supposed to do, just felt like I was not valued, I think is probably at the heart of it. I was not valued in the contributions that I was giving, and I was giving it my all. I felt like I had something to prove, maybe to others or to myself, but I was maybe looking for more external validation than my internal validation. It ended up with me having very severe burnout, mental health conditions like panic attacks every single day. Um, yeah. It was a very sad time in my life because I felt like I had worked so hard to get to where I was at, and then to be treated like, "Meh, you don't matter," is what it really came down to. I didn't feel like I mattered in that role, and I had this conversation with somebody that I had met through work where he was talking about values, and I remember thinking, I'd never thought about my values before. Like, what do I believe? I don't know what I believe. So I that conversation almost gave me permission to think about those. So what I came to find is that I value people, and I value connection, and I value authenticity and truthfulness, and those were all things that I was not finding in that career. And this was over the course of probably 2 years. Like, it was not a fast, like, "Oh, I woke up and then decided that I'm gonna have a career change." It did not happen like that. So, more on the spiritual side of things, what really started it for me was the solar eclipse, we had a totality in my area, and I remember being witness to this eclipse and thinking, "Oh my gosh, I have never felt like so small," too, like being so small on this earth, witnessing the sun and moon converging, and I just felt like this is such a huge natural event. What am I doing with my life? Why am I making the decisions? There has to be more than what I am doing right now. And then also just the excitement around the eclipse, like, everybody went outside. I think, what do they call that? Collective effervescence or
Collective
something like that.
effervescence.
So I had that, and I, like, felt the energy of all of these people coming outside together at the same time, watching this event and you could hear the wave of cheers just, like, sweep across the neighborhood, and it made me feel things in myself that I've maybe never felt before, like the call to go do something different because this life that I was living was not it. Survival mode, no thank you. And so after that happened, I randomly kept seeing the numbers 333, and I brushed it off at first. I wasn't I was not looking for signs or anything at this point. And it just kept happening and kept happening, and so I told my husband about it, and it was like this joke at first, and then it got to the point where I'm like, "Okay, wait a second. This is happening so often that there's no way that this is a coincidence. I don't think I really believe in coincidence anymore. What is happening?" So I looked up what 333 meant, and I came across this article that essentially said 333 is a wink from the universe to let you know that your spirit guides are letting you know that everything is going to be okay. And this was at a very, very low spot where I was not feeling okay. I was not feeling hopeful. It just was like a black abyss of survival mode, nothing, no way out kind of thing. And so I felt seen, and I wasn't emotionally mature enough even to really let my husband know how low I was feeling or my family. I was like a very solo, I was very just alone in this feeling because I wasn't sharing. So I felt seen by this article, like, okay, wow, maybe there is something else out there. And, like I said before, my dad had cancer and I didn't really believe in a God or anything at this point. I was in that anger, resentful phase. And then I see this and say, wow, okay, maybe there is something more to it. And that's actually what led me to Gabby Bernstein. That's how I found her, because I found her on spirit guides and how to connect with them. And so that's when I decided that, okay, yeah, I'm going to be open to that because that was too much for it to just be a coincidence. And that's kind of what started the ball rolling for me to be open to these things that now happen all the time. Anything can be an angel number, but yes, angel numbers like any three numbers together is considered an angel number. But if you're seeing any number over and over and over again, notice it and then look it up and see if there's a meaning that is specific to whatever you're going through.
I was going to mention this earlier, but I was like, it's not really relevant. But then you said the thing about the solar eclipse, and I was like, oh my God, I got to tell you. So I got my daughter this Explorer Bible. She's 5. And so we were reading it. And in it, it was talking about like the solar system and how we're part of a galaxy. And it was kind of basically saying like, we are very, very small in this world. And I was telling her, like, so if we have a big problem, it's really not that big of a deal, So I was trying to explain that to her. But earlier, then you mentioned solar eclipse and how you come to the realization that like, hey, when we think shit's hitting the fan, we are just one speck of one tiny time point in this infinite universe. I don't know. I just had to tell you because I was like, oh my God. I was going to say it and I
Hello,
said,
that's breadcrumb or a synchronicity, literally, like that. There are no coincidences. And I don't know for sure if this is like the way it works, but I kind of have the belief that our brains are almost like antenna. Have you ever, this kind of goes into like quantum entanglement and the particle theory and all those things, but if you're looking at the science part of things, so I like to like bridge the two together. And so if you're thinking about quantum entanglement, there's no distance that is too far. You are always connected to that other particle. So why can't it be your guides using your brain to give you these thoughts? Like, knowing how interwoven and connected we all are, that you had this story and I also had that similar experience, and now here we are connecting over it.
I know.
Did y'all hear the speech that that astronaut gave on Artemis about, like, he looked at Earth and just saw, like, he's like, we're doing amazing things, but y'all are like, we're equidistant from each other. And we're all meant to fight. Like, he said it so beautiful. So I'll have to share his speech because it's also very much related to what y'all are saying. And so maybe for those that don't know what quantum entanglement is, and Taylor, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's basically when you separate two particles, and it doesn't matter the distance. If something changes here, at simultaneously changes it the same way here.
Yep.
It's fascinating, it's physics, it's
It's
just
real science. It's not like mysticism, real science.
it is backed by science. And you're a fan of the telepathy tapes. It's a lot about the consciousness and our connectivity, and she really focuses on the nonverbal and how they're able to communicate and even visit each other in these rooms.
They meet at a place called The Hill, and they have full-blown conversations, but they're nonverbal. And then
I believe
they're
it.
able to it's fascinating to me. And I don't know why, but I feel that we are kind of starting to have an awakening as a society where we are throwing away what we used to quote unquote know, and which we didn't know, right? Like maybe like systematic, they're trying to control us, right? And we are now going into something which is how we were always supposed to live, but people in power have been trying to get us away from that. So I see a lot more of this openness, a lot more of throwing away like corporate life.
I don't know if you are into astrology, but Pluto is in Aquarius and the systems are breaking for the better. So yes, I 100% agree, and I do think that's why even now talking about this, we were just saying growing up we didn't feel like we could communicate these things and talk openly, and now look at us. Society is changing and we're more open, and I I don't think communication can hurt. Being open and communicating our experiences is going to hurt anything. And I am working on a piece of writing, and it'll probably take me a while to do it. So like, don't be checking on my blog because it's going to be a while. But I have found some crazy synchronicity sort of things when I looked into transcendentalism. Does anybody remember transcendentalism from high school English? Okay, so middle of the night, it's 3 a.m., okay? And I wake up and I have a clairaudient thing in my head. I have the word transcendentalism pinging in my head over and over and over again. Now, again, before I would have just ignored it. Now I don't do that. I listen. So I looked it up. And transcendentalism was it was a movement of people who were trying to go back into simpler ways of being when they started to feel like systems had too much power or control over themselves. And this was in the late 1800s. And like Henry David Thoreau was a transcendentalist writer, Ralph Waldo Emerson. So that led me on this train of like researching and finding out more about these people. And they're relying more on nature. So Henry David Thoreau went to Ralph Waldo Emerson's cabin while in his book Walden. He writes about his experience with that. I just remember looking when I first looked up what it was. I was like, oh my gosh, that's what I feel like I'm doing now. I'm going back to the roots of nature to find myself. And oh my gosh, yes, this is exactly where we are right now, because it relies heavily on self, and self meaning you have to take care of yourself and heal yourself first before you can go and help others. And I feel like that is also a collective thing that's happening again. But what happened was people took that too far and took it as selfishness. So they were skipping the help others part and they were strictly focused on themselves. And that's how we got into capitalism and the corporate systems, because they were focused on the material, wealth and things like that for themselves. They got outside of that original feeling of needing to do good for others. I feel like that has happened so much in the history of human existence. That happens again over and over and over again. We reach this point. For me, it was the loss of my dad and like the corporate identity. For others during that time, it was slavery and women's rights. Like we all have a different breaking point that leads us back to realizing our value of ourselves and making different choices that we can live differently and for the better of, evolution of this species of the world.
You just gave me this word because this also connects. Like my book that I'm writing is all about AI and how we are forced to have these decisions as a society. And I think I'm going to need to steal that word for the blurb. Like,
Which one?
what?
Transcendental? Mm-hmm. And it's so crazy too because I was reading this book. Have you guys heard of Dr. Joe Dispenza? He's a scientist. I was reading his book. It's about how you can like get into a meditative state and become and decide the life that you want to have. It's much more in depth than that. That's a very simple version. But I started reading his book. It's called Becoming Supernatural. And I was going through and like highlighting things and taking notes. And I got that book in December. I had that clear audience, like, I don't know, maybe in March. I forgot that I had highlighted the word transcendentalism in that book until like last week when I went to go start reading it again. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was being told to look into this a lot sooner than when I actually paid attention. So it came back to me at 3 a.m. in the middle of the night when that word would not leave my mind and then started the ball rolling again. Yeah.
My gosh. So many
Okay.
breadcrumbs.
I'm telling you, they're everywhere.
My light just moved. Sorry, guys. I
Oh.
kicked it. I kicked it. It just naturally moved. That was. Let me back it up. I should say it just moved, and that would make for a good podcast. I'm just kidding.
Hey, you know what? Spirit works through whatever means it needed to make it move. So
It made my foot move it.
yeah, you know what? That's actually a really great point because I feel like so many times people want to disprove their signs, like needing to find the science behind why this happened. And I don't think it needs to be that complicated. The fact of the matter is you received a message. It does not matter how it got there. So, for example, I had seen this video of a woman who lost her son. It was snowy and she saw like a heart in her driveway. What it was somebody backed out and like the tire marks made a heart. But it happened almost every morning for like 3 weeks straight. And people in the comments were like, "Oh, well, it's just somebody backing up." And I'm like, "Yes, of course. Like the heart doesn't just magically get there. It takes some kind of coordinated effort. The fact of it is that there was a heart in the driveway for that person that lost their son and that made her think of him. It doesn't matter how it got there. If you're getting the message, that is the message."
I love that.
Amen.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say amen? Look, God is here for it. Taylor, I just have to tell you, we had a fun episode, and to me, I'm not religious, but I believe in God. You know, my church says forget religion, find God. That's where the problem comes in, is religion and human mankind. But I'm like, God is woo-woo. You can't be, no, for real. You can't tell me that Jesus died on the cross and then said, F death, I'm defeating the grave, and I'm going to wait a few days, and then I'm going to come back, and that's not woo-woo.
I know, and you know, that word alone is like, I have beef with that word, woo-woo, because that is other people's way of being. Like, even though it's not normal for this culture, like I found myself what I was doing when I was using the word woo-woo too. It was like I was almost filtering myself back and prefacing like, "Oh, this is going to sound a little bit woo-woo," but really it was my true authentic feelings coming through. And like people live in different cultures with these ways that we're now finding again, and we want to preface by like diminishing it, and it's not something that should be diminished, like fully embrace your beliefs. You don't need to preface with anything. Like if you believe it, you are allowed to have that belief and fully step into the power of having that belief.
Oh,
And this, I mentioned this book that I'm writing. It's about AI, but there's several timelines. One of those timelines is ancient China, and it's a ton of research, right? This whole book is a ton of research. But one thing that I learned is in ancient China, the shaman are called woos. And I was like,
Really?
not, and
Is
spelled
that where
W.
is that where that word came from? I wonder. Now I feel like I need to go do research on where that word came from.
it could have
And
come from that.
yeah,
I hear woo almost every day now. I feel
I
like I
did
never heard
too.
it in the or early 2000s. Like just the past 5 years, it's like woo 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 woo. Because I'm like we're all woo woo. It's fine. Like everything is
Yeah.
actually woo woo.
Really? Seriously. It's like when you start having these experiences that you weren't used to, it really does feel like you're living a different life. Like my life now compared to what it was 5 years ago, not even close to being the same. Like if I would have told myself 5 years ago that I would have some of the experiences that I have now on that mystic level, there's not a chance I would have believed you. And so now that that is like my way of living, it's just woo woo is just like not the nicest
Nope.
word for that. Like it's diminishing my experiences. And again, this is like all my projection. So like I'm not like coming at you for using that word. Just this is just my hot take. Here you go. Here's my hot take. Woo woo is not a nice word, okay?
I want your hot take of woo woo not being a nice word.
I think woo woo diminishes and makes people take light the things that matter to other people on a spiritual level.
I never thought about it that way. You know why? Because I feel that nowadays everyone, maybe this is my algorithm because I'm into it. I don't know. I think that I can see it actually being like a derogatory term now that you say that. But in like my mind, I'm like, everyone is saying woo woo now. They're all like, I'm woo woo. This is woo woo. Life is woo woo. And then I'm like, then we're all woo woo because everything we believe in is kind of all a little bit similar. Like you were saying at the beginning, like all religion across the board has pretty much the same core principle when you boil it down. Like it's not that different. Some of the practices are different, but the core of it is pretty similar.
Yeah, I agree. And I do think that is maybe your algorithm because my group of people don't like that word and it's because of that. It's because you get on here and you see videos that preface with that. And again, this is no hate to anybody. This is just another perspective. You see them preface this thing as woo woo, and then it's something that I take very seriously and I use in my daily practice to better myself. And I feel so connected to spirit and my dad or whatever it is. And for somebody to make that so simple into a word that's like, you're woo woo because you think that you're talking to your dad through the birds. Like, that's not what I think. That's not the core of my belief. But when we diminish it and use a term like that, it is very much, it feels like that's what is being said.
So what is another word that you would say? Just spiritual?
Yeah. I mean, it is intent. Yeah, these are just my spiritual practices. These are just this is just the way that I live my life. It's not for anything or anyone else other than myself.
Like it's just your way of existing. I like how you've used the word. You've consulted with your higher self and guides, and we have a whole episode, right? Like with Dr. Kell, and she consults her guides and her higher self, and we talked a lot about manifestation. And I think the word woo woo to me is it's a gateway word for those that are foreign to these concepts. Maybe they were raised in a way that we were, where these concepts are uncomfortable for them until they get educated on it, get knowledgeable about it, and then that discomfort goes away. But I see what you're saying, Taylor, what that can be used as a derogatory word.
Yeah, and I used it before. Like I very much was one of those people that would preface like this is going to sound a little bit woo woo. But I noticed then the pattern of when I used that word. And it was when I was about to share something very personal that wasn't mainstream, that I was kind of scared or nervous to share because I didn't know how they were going to react. I have recognized that pattern in myself and recognized the pattern in others when they preface that that they are sharing something. A lot of times it is because it's against the societal norms, and I don't subscribe to that anymore. Again, yeah, it's like the more educated and the more that I integrate these practices, it really is just a part of who I am and the way that I live my life, no different than a religion. Like, what would you say if somebody was like a Christian person that maybe wasn't, or whatever the religion is, if that wasn't comfortable with some of the things that I'm comfortable with, but I'm now using a word in that way to describe their very personal religious beliefs. A lot of times woo woo and crazy go hand in hand. This is going to sound crazy. This is going to sound woo woo. I do use the word crazy, but it's not in the sense of like it's actually crazy. It's just like, wow, that's so crazy. But really, like that's the way that I was using it, was this is going to sound woo woo. This is going to sound crazy. But really, now that I'm on the other side of it, and this is the way that I live, and it is so personal, and I see the way that others are doing that also. That's the conclusion that I have made.
Since we're kind of talking about words and sort of language around this, I've also heard the term. So you mentioned the life you're living now is very different than the life you were living 5 years ago, right? And you follow these signs and you follow your path and you're picking up the breadcrumbs. But I've also heard this term lately of this quantum leaping, right? And it's not the same as like the show from the 90s, Quantum Leap, but it's about how if you look
Yeah.
back and you've changed your job and your values and where you live and the people you hang out with, you've essentially quantum leaped in your life into this different life. And I've done it. I think I've shared with you my manifesto of
Yeah.
sort of when I did the trajectory on that. I think that's pretty, even having this podcast, right? This is a total quantum leap from before not having a podcast to now it's in fruition. But Taylor, have you heard that term before too?
I have, yes, and I'm not going to pretend to understand any of it, but I do agree with the basis of it, that you have the choice to take the timeline or the path or whatever you want to call it to get to the stage of life that you want to be in. So I do, when I'm talking about myself, will refer to it as like my highest timeline, which I think is what they're referring to, like quantum leaping. You're going through the timelines to get to your best reality, I guess. So yeah, I have heard of it, and I don't understand it or don't quite know, but I'm learning myself and do use those terms. Yeah.
I mean, you really, I feel like you did do a quantum leap because you'd ask yourself 5 years ago, I'm going to be a death doula. You would be like, what? What is that?
No.
How would you even know? That's my
And
first
you
time
know
hearing
what
about a
also
is one needs one. We all, I'm like, we all need a death doula. Like, why is this a big thing that I'm just now finding out about? Because we need
no,
more
I
of
didn't
them.
even know what it was either. I didn't even know what it was. And I went through the hospice process, and it was funny too because at one point I was talking to my therapist about like trying to find meaning in my life because I had no idea what I was going to do. Like I felt like I was in a liminal space where I had no idea what comes next. I can't go back to my job. I hated that world. But what do I do now? And she actually mentioned the word death doula, and I kind of like shook it off like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then that was the end of it. And then here I am now, months later, and I've taken this course, which then led me to, finding out about the people that are dying and what they need. And so I looked it up for myself and read it. And I actually had a like physical reaction when I read the description of what death doula was, because it's like everything made sense finally. I don't know why I never looked it up before or why I shook it off, but I did. And maybe it was because it wasn't supposed to make sense until now. It wasn't supposed to hit the way that it did. And I did. I had a huge, like, I cried and cried and I sobbed because finally it was making sense. And I felt like I have found my path and my purpose.
Brittany and I love the book, The Creative Act. And Rick Rubin talks about that is like when you find that piece that gets you either excited or that huge emotional response, that's your tell on the direction that you should be going, like where you should be putting your energy. So, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even decision making is different now, 5 years ago from now, because I'm not in the should I do this, should I do that. It's almost like I'm relearning to live on my own terms. Before, I was doing what I was told, got a job right out of college, had kids when I like right away, got my job, climbed up the corporate ladder, but I was never living for me. I was living because that's what I thought I was supposed to do. Now I've flipped and realized the importance of self and realized that I'm worthy of having a life that I want. And so now, yeah, I make the decisions based on, does this feel good? Am I happy? The positive in life. And no, life is not always going to be joy and positivity, but when you know yourself so well that you can identify the triggers or the stresses early, you can bounce back quicker and make different decisions from that point.
You're probably a better mom for that
Yeah,
too.
for sure. Yeah, a lot more patient.
Well, I guess the only thing, Taylor, is were there any other breadcrumb moments that you wanted to share that we didn't touch base on?
Okay, I'll tell the story of my shared death experience, which was the breadcrumb. I do have a video of this on my TikTok if anybody wants to see it, but I'll tell it again here. So, this was a huge mystic but also synchronous moment that happened in my life. My dad was in the hospital on hospice. This was his final hours, and I was listening to binaural beats because I was really struggling with hearing the death rattle sound. So I had my head rested on him and his face and his hand was like this on my face. And I had my eyes closed and I went to like this meditative state and I had a very vivid vision of him in what I would describe as like the light. The light was right behind him, kind of far off, but I feel like I was in like that in between state with him. And I remember it like it's like I was there, but I wasn't there physically. Like I couldn't see myself. It was like my eyes, my vision of him, and it would zoom into his face, and then I would see his blue eyes. He had very striking blue eyes when he was alive. And he was healthy too. So I felt like it was him telling me I'm okay. Like, his body did not look okay in the physical, but that vision that I had, he was very much himself, and he was smiling, and he looked joyful, and he gave me a hug, and I was talking to him and, like, saying my goodbyes basically because I felt like I really couldn't in the state that he was in, and even though he wasn't talking to me in this vision, I still knew. I still had a very strong knowing that he was gonna be okay. And then somebody kicked me and I got taken out of that vision, and I tried so hard to get back in it, but I could only he came back then when I closed my eyes and got back to it, he came to me as a blue aura now, and so I feel like I can channel him now. I do channel him, like, when I try and I close my eyes, he will come to me as that blue aura, which I mentioned before with the blue jay story, seeing the blue jay with that blue aura, that's what tied that all together, that was him and his message. But during that day of his final hours, I kept having this song pop into my head, "I'll Leave a Light on for You" by Papa Roach. And I kept hearing it over and over and over again, just this one line in the song, and I didn't think anything of it. And so on the way home after it had happened, I thought, I'm gonna get a light for my dad because it'll be in like memory of him. So now I'm gonna pause and go to a different lane of the story. So my dad, his dad, my grandpa died of cancer also, and he had gotten from his friends a little light that said his name and his death date, and he had it on his shelf. And this had been 5 years ago. They never replaced the batteries. On a few instances when my dad was at his lowest of lows in so much pain, the light turned on by itself. No, the dead batteries were not like it was there. It was on. And so that happened 2 or 3 times. And the night the day after my dad died, that morning the light was on again. And so in tandem with me having that song, "I'll Leave a Light on for You," which the lyrics are like, "Through the long nights, I will be right there for you by your side," or something like that. So I'm like, oh my God, he wasn't talking. That wasn't me talking to my dad that I'm going to need to get a light for him. That was him talking to me that he is going to leave that light on for me. And there have been multiple times where lights will flicker now when I'm really having a moment. And so that's another sign that I have for my dad.
It's beautiful. I love to hear
Yeah.
that.
Thank you for sharing that. Oh my
Yeah. Thank you for
gosh.
listening. Thank you for holding space for me today.
Of course.
We relate on so many different levels. So I thank you for sharing so much of yourself and being so vulnerable about it too. Thank you.
I have my new company that I'm starting. It's called Kindred Company. If you want to check that out, but I'm very excited to see that grow.
And let us know about the
What
death doula. I really am I'm very interested in learning more, and I think it's a great tool for everyone who's going through it, and just being able to have the open conversations when someone does pass and holding
Mhm.
space for our friends. I think we don't do a good job of it because we feel uncomfortable, but maybe we need to let go of that uncomfort to help them be more comfortable.
Yeah, and realizing that those emotions, even though they're uncomfortable, you're still gonna be okay. Like, they are just feelings. They'll have their wave and they'll be gone.
Where can people find you right now? Because I know you're on TikTok, but and so what's your handle there? And then where else can they find you?
Kindred Co. Taylor on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And I also have a Substack too where I will share my writings.
Taylor, by the way, please know, I hope I didn't offend you by using the word
No,
woo-woo.
no, no,
Okay.
no, 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 no.
In my mind,
Nope.
I get everyone saying, I'm woo-woo, so I'm like, "Oh, yeah, this is woo-woo." But now I'm like,
I
"Oh,
know.
shit,
Now, no,
well."
you did not offend me, but I felt like I needed to share because I think a lot of other people feel the way that I do, but maybe are not speaking up. So,
Yeah, and it makes you think, like, you like, okay, my algorithm is saying, like, "I'm woo-woo," so I'm like, "Oh, yeah, we're all woo-woo, it's good." But when you say it like, "Yeah, I'm saying it because I'm prefacing that this is gonna be crazy, or this is not mainstream or quote unquote normal," then it's like, "Oh, yeah, fuck that." Like, that's not I don't wanna call that woo-woo because then that's diminishing what someone is feeling.
yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you knew I wasn't trying to offend, and I love you.
No, you did not at all. I promise. It takes a lot to get under my skin. So, you're good.
Yeah, that was a good flower hour, I liked it. Okay, so to wrap up, Taylor, we'll let you choose which one you wanna say.
Can I actually say to ask for your breadcrumb? I think that is a good one for this segment for people to ask for their own and then go find it. No, not even go
I
find it. Come to
Ooh.
you. Let it come to you.
Okay, so we're gonna say go first of all, let me just say, obsessed with this because, yes, let's ask for some breadcrumbs from maybe our past loved ones, our spirit guides, the universe, God, whatever you wanna say. Let's ask for some breadcrumbs, and then be open to receiving them.
Yes, look for them. You still have don't obsessively look for them, but keep your awareness open. That's me. Yeah, keep your awareness open.
Okay.
Love that.
All right, friends, so go out into your week and ask for
Ask
your
for your
breadcrumb.
Um,
I don't know if that worked.
And you know
so
what?
yeah,
I'm
well, we're
virtual. We're never gonna get it on time. It is just there's a lag.
yeah.
Why are we? What's that thing we were talking about with the DNA or the particles
Quantum
and them changing?
entanglement. Nope, quantum entanglement here.
All right, friends, go out into your weekend.
Ask for your breadcrumbs.
We may cuss, we may offend.
Maybe don't listen to this with your kids in the car. We're here to learn and laugh, not to offend.
We are not experts, so take what resonates and professional advice where needed. Thanks for hanging out with us today.
If you've loved today's conversation, subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. Continue picking up the breadcrumbs by leaving us a review and sharing.
Follow us on socials. We are at Instagram at The Breadcrumb Effect, TikTok at The Breadcrumb Effect Pod, and YouTube at The Breadcrumb Effect.
Let us know your favorite episode or what you'd like to see.
Want to be a guest or know someone with a story? Fill out our guest interest form linked in our bios.
Finally, let us know if you found the hidden loaf. Until next time, keep picking up those breadcrumbs.
They're leading you exactly where you're meant to be.
There's not like this awkward period where she's like staring at you in the face while she's like talking about you.
Okay. So you might like it. I don't know. I'm just kidding.
I'm all here for like no, I'm just kidding.
You're like, tell me more.
Yeah. Tell me all the nice things about myself.
And I provided you to talk about
Yeah.
me. No.
That was
Guys, my
great.
face is from smiling. Let me just tell you.